So the World Test Championship is upon us, the final between India and Australia. In our part of the world, we're looking at this as a great opportunity for India to win ICC silverware. I wonder what the expectation or the anticipation is like in Australia. And nothing better than getting Ian Chappell's thoughts. A very good evening to you, Chappell. Most of Australia, I think, will be asleep as this test unfolds. Not the greatest of ours. I'd love to know if you'd be tuned in, but tell me what the excitement or anticipation is, because it already seems like the focus is around the long summer with the 5 Ashes tests to come and not just this one-off World Test Championship final.
Yeah, good evening, Ronak. I think the Australians will be looking at it as a good warm-up, and obviously the Ashes, you know what the Ashes is like with Australia and England. They get a bit besotted with the Ashes. So this test could be a little bit on the back burner, but it shouldn't be, because I think this is, I'd slightly favour Australia, mainly because they're not going to have their best bowling attack because Hazlewood is out now, but Cummins and Stark, two very good bowlers. June in England, good conditions for them. I think also Boland, I think is a good, honest toiler, but if it's a normal June in England, conditions could suit him as well. So I'd say Australia, but just.
All right. Let's talk about that selection you spoke of. We thought Michael Nessa might be an exciting option with the form he's shown, even though he was only brought in as a reserve player. What do Australia get in Scott Boland, and what do India need to look out for?
Well, Boland will be, you know what you're going to get with Boland. He's accurate. If you allow him to be accurate, he'll do a little bit, mainly off the pitch. He's not a big swinger of the ball, but he can also bowl long spells, which means that particularly Stark, I think that Cummins would like to use him short, sharp bursts, bowl quick, swing the ball, get a few blokes out. And Stark is the one who could be a little expensive. But if he's taking wickets, that's what Australia will be looking for. So I think that with Lyon and Boland, Cummins will be looking at both of them to bowl longish spells tidily and give both himself and Stark a bit of a breather in between spells.
One-off test, Chappell, the era of warm-up games seems to have gone. A couple of players on either side have spent some time in England playing county cricket. But what do you think would decide the fate of a one-off test in neutral territory this time of year in England? Where do you see this game effectively being decided?
Well, that's where I slightly favour Australia. I think with their attack, India's batting, it can be a little bit dicey. Australia haven't, they're going to rely a lot on Smith and Labuschagne. But the guy who could make a big difference if he succeeds is Warner, because Warner's a very aggressive, not only aggressive player, but he's a very aggressive thinker. And if he gets going, Warner's likely to get 100 of 120 balls. Now, that's the sort of player who, if you're a captain, he worries you, because if he gets going, he can win a game in just a couple of hours. Very few can win a game in a couple of hours. And that's where I think Warner is dangerous. But Australia will be hoping that Smith and Labuschagne can make decent totals and, gives Australia a chance. If the top order goes well, then Head can come in. Head seems to like to counter-attack. I think he's got a lot of weaknesses. But if the bowlers don't bowl well to him and the batsmen above him have made a good start, then Head can just rip the game away from you.
Do you sense with what England have shown us over the past 12 months or so, their ultra-aggressive style of batting? I know you're not a fan of the term Bazball. You didn't include it once in your recent column, so I won't bring it up. But
you already have.
Is that the template for India and Australia with the kind of batters that they have? We speak of Warner, Green, Travis Head as game changers because they're capable of playing that ultra-aggressive style in Test match cricket. Do you expect that sort of style adopted by both teams in this one-off test for a World Test Championship final?
I think it's No, I'm not expecting it necessarily in the one-off test with India. I don't think India will change the way they play. Australia, I mean, firstly, let's say that it's a smart move for England, because what they're doing is trying to win the test match, any test match, from ball number one. And the fact that England have won, 10 out of 12 playing this way, will give them a lot of confidence. So, it's a stupid term, I think, because what it is really England playing aggressive cricket, trying to win the game from ball number one, which is not something they've always done. Australia play their best cricket when they play that way, play aggressively but sensibly. And to me, that's the important thing. You don't just go out there and try and carve up the opposition no matter what. You try and carve them up when you can. And if it's difficult for an hour or so, then you've got to play accordingly. So I think, but I'm not expecting that India are going to come out and play that way. Australia, if you give them the opportunity, they'll play to win from ball number one. I think Sharma will do that, but he'll do it sensibly. So don't expect a run rate of 5 from India. I think India will bat as they have always done.
Now, it's a polarizing debate on Warner. You take away that Boxing Day double 100 and you don't see a lot more. He's had a forgettable series with injury and form in India, and he comes to England where he's yet to get 100 in 13 tests, averaging in the mid-20s. With all that he said, David Warner, about his career, do you see him having a high impact in a venue like England and actually playing that sort of innings that you just mentioned, game-changing innings in a session or two? Or do you sense that David Warner is behind us? How do you see him going?
Oh, a lot of those days are behind him, because he's an age now where you start to struggle a bit because of your age and you become a little more conservative. But nobody should be thinking that Warner is not smart, because he is. He's smart. He knows what bowlers are trying to do to him. He knows what his game is. And the other thing about Warner is a lot of Australians are jumping up and down about Warner. Oh, why are they picking him? It's very easy to drop someone, but who are you going to replace him with? And you look at Australia's opening batting, big problem for Australia shortly, because they're not only going to lose Warner, but they're going to lose Khawaja as well, because Khawaja's at that age where, you don't expect him to go on a lot longer. Now, Bancroft, done very little. Harris, very, very little. You could not possibly pick Harris ahead of Warner. That anyone who did that or thought of that would be off their rocker. So I think that's one reason why they got to be hoping that Warner does succeed and that he does overcome the broad bogey in the Ashes series, because if he doesn't, then it could be a real problem area for Australia.
All right, let's talk a bit about India. I guess the bigger question mark would be the balance of their bowling attack, which came under some scrutiny for the extra spinner in the last World Test Championship final. They'd be somewhat scarred by that, I guess, Chappell. What if you don't need an extra spinner in June in England, even if it is at the Oval? But you believe that this Indian team, regardless of conditions, is a better one without Ashwin in it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, you've got to pick your best bowling lineup. Now, this is where I think India are lucky, in that Jadeja fits in to the top 6 as a batsman. So he's there. And Jadeja, even if he doesn't bowl a lot, he'll give you a hell of a lot in the field, and he gives you plenty with the bat. So to have him there is very good. I mean, the question I would ask India is, do you think you've got a quickie who could fit into that 4th spot ahead of Ashwin? Anybody who tells me that, I'm going to look at him and think, you're off your rocker, mate, because I think Ashwin is a very good bowler. And I think Ashwin, he's got the ability to get Smith out. He's shown that. Not many bowlers know how to get Smith out. And then there's the left-handers. And Ashwin has got a terrific record against left-handers. Australia have quite a few. So to me, I think it's stupidity for India to be talking about not playing Ashwin. I think he's got to play. And the other thing about Ashwin is he'll give you some runs. He's a useful number 8 batsman. So I don't see why. And to me, 3 quicks plus your 2 spinners, off spinner, left arm orthodox, that's a perfectly balanced attack to me. And I think a very good attack. I cannot see why India wouldn't take Ashwin into that test.
All right. The other selection question mark would be which keeper plays, which is not as straightforward a question as it was when Rishabh Pant was at his peak, Chappell. And now with Ishan Kishan being called in as a backup or a replacement player, it perhaps confuses us more. I've heard many times you say that the incumbent in the squad naturally should be the next option. Otherwise, why did you pick him? In KS Bharat, we have a keeper of 4 tests, never kept in England. And in Ishan Kishan, we have a test debutant, but one who has a reputation of scoring quick runs and having that sort of Pant-esque impact in the middle order. Jury's out on his own keeping abilities, but that has improved. How would you go about it? What are the questions you would ask?
Well, I think you've got to look at it as a one-off test. So that's a little different to playing a series. So if you think, and I mean, this is where India are unlucky to lose Pant, because Pant, if he's there, he covers all those bases because he's left-handed. I think he's a very good keeper, much improved keeper. And he's a very aggressive batsman, just what you need in the middle order. So I haven't seen Bharat do enough with the gloves to make me think that he's a certainty. So for a one-off test match, without having seen Kishan, I don't know much about him, but I wouldn't be saying to myself, well, I'm not going to play him because Bharat's the better keeper, because on what I saw, Bharat is just a very average keeper, and therefore Kishan could be just as good as a keeper, but he'll bat a hell of a lot better. And if he bats very aggressively, he's a left-hander, then I'd think about playing him.
There's a lot of talk on Shubman Gill and the rise of Shubman Gill. Is he the heir apparent to Virat Kohli, the next big superstar for India? He's played the 1 test in England, Chappell, the last World Test Championship final. Steady starts. From what you've seen of him, does he have the game already to be successful? Do you think there's an area that he would be vulnerable to against this Australian attack?
Yes, I think any batsman, particularly up the top order, is going to be vulnerable to that Australian attack because they're damn good bowlers. But Shubman Gill, to me, he's very much a modern cricketer. I think he plays without a lot of fear. He plays shots. And the thing that I like about him is he plays shots according to what comes down. If he thinks the ball's there to be hit, he tries to hit it. Now, that sort of player will get out occasionally because you'll make a mistake mentally and you'll attack the wrong ball. And I think this is one area where Stokes has been very good. You can't harangue guys if they're attacking players and they make a mistake. You can't accept their good stuff and then harangue them when they get out playing a bad shot. You've got to say to them, mate, I understand the way you play. You've got to play like that all the time. And you've got to tell them you will not get a kick up the backside from me if you get out playing a shot. And I think that's the way you treat Shubman Gill. Shubman Gill could be, in a one-off test, could be the sort of player who wins the game for India, and he could do it. He's probably the India's equivalent to Warner. He could probably take the opposition or take the game away from the opposition in virtually one session. Someone like that is, I think, they're gold. Anyone who's that much of a match winner, and particularly in a one-off game, I think he could be gold for India.
All right. And we did see spin play a big part in the home series, understandably. So Australia got better as the series went on, Chappell, against India's spinners. Do you see spin playing an important part in this one-off test from either side, Nathan Lyon and Jadeja and possibly Ashwin?
I think they're good spin bowlers. Jadeja. I think Jadeja's got better as a spin bowler, but he's still primarily there as a batsman who can field well and he'll give you some overs. I think both Lyon and Ashwin are the sort of bowlers who can get wickets under any conditions. So I'd say, there are spinners around who need conditions to be in their favour. And I'd only think about picking them if conditions were in their favour. Ashwin and Lyon are not those type of spinners. They're the type of spinners I say I pick them every game because they're going to get wickets no matter what the conditions are. So if they took wickets in this one-off test, it wouldn't surprise me at all.